The World Trade Center attacks of September 11th, 2001 was probably the most disturbing incident I've ever witnessed in my lifetime. It changed the way I see the world. It, I guess more than anything, woke me up to the idea that there are bigger powers, there are larger forces in this world that are evil. And they sort of knocked on our windows and said, hey, we're here, we exist, and we are a threat to you. And I know I talk about various incidences and people and influences that led me to do conspiracy videos like this and blogs and to write about conspiracies and stuff. But this really was the real turning point for me in terms of me being someone who just was mildly interested in occult topics, and someone who like actively wanted to sort of put on a detective hat and go, wait a minute, what's really going on here? This is so disturbing. I have to know more about this. So I kind of embarked on a half-assed attempt to find out what happened, and that resulted mostly just in me reading a book about George W. Bush and the Bush family and their connections and things like that. And that is a very valid aspect of the 9/11 conspiracy, without a doubt. But there are a whole lot of details that just will blow your mind if you take a sincere gander into it. I'm not going to go over some of the more common points that I'm sure a lot of you already know about. But even if you're just a casual, if you're new to the 9/11 conspiracy, maybe you're not old enough to remember it. Watch this film. This film just came out, Codex 9/11. It's a documentary. And I can tell you, as someone, I had a friend who was part of Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. This is a very serious organization that has been diligently doing so much work to try and open people's eyes to the simple fact that the physics involved with how these buildings fell just is not possible, does not check out. So this film goes into that and just about everything else I've ever heard, and goes like 5 steps further. So it's a very important film, I think, for people to watch, for especially Americans, but everyone in the world should see this. It's a film by Brad Zerbo, a native of New York, released via Badlands Media on their rumble.com channel on August 24th, 2025. It's free as I record this. I watched it twice already, and it's actually playing across the country. So if you jump on it quick, you might be able to catch it in a theatrical form. Anyway, I'm not going to go over everything. I'm just going to take one specific aspect of this documentary, a topic that I had no idea about. I had no clue about this topic that I'm going to be zoning in on here in this video. Needless to say, there are some spoilers here. And of course, I would like to encourage everyone to watch the film and support the creators in any way that you can. So we're going to talk about gelatin. And what you're looking at is from gelatin.net. Gelatin is comprised of 4 artists. They met first in 1978 when they all attended a summer camp. Since then, they are playing and working together. In 1993, they began exhibiting internationally. This is an Austrian art troupe of some type. At first, these 4 artists were known as Gelatin, Gelatin, but changed their name in 2005. That's significant, and we'll go into that in a moment. They are known for their intriguing projects. Amongst them is their pool installation on the roof of a museum, or their gigantic plush boy, a 55-meter tall pink rabbit near Genoa, Italy. This is from an article at publicdelivery.org, and you can see here this giant bunny thing they did in Italy. This must be a well-funded project. They're traveling all over the world because they're from Austria. This is in Italy. And we're about to talk about an installation they did in New York. Over time, they have ventured into other art forms. Their project, The Bee Thing, began in March of 2000. This time the group allegedly removed one of the windows on the 91st floor of the former World Trade Center complex in New York. Now, this is a year and a half before the September 11th attacks, and this is the 91st floor of World Trade Center 1, which was the first building hit, and it was hit just a few floors above where this is. The first plane hit floors 93 through 99, so that was just a couple floors above where they are doing this installation a year and a half before the events of 9/11. After this, they installed a narrow balcony, and a helicopter was flying around the scene, capturing every moment, which would later be documented in the book, The Bee Thing. After the project concluded, the World Trade Center was involved in one of the most prominent events of the last 100 years. So the question is, what is this art project? What is it all about? And what might it have to do with the attacks of September 11th that would occur a year and a half later? So let's first look at the name, gelatin. Gelatin is a protein derived from animal collagen found in animal skin, bones, and connective tissues, used as a thickener and stabilizer in foods like gummy candies and ice cream. Most of us know about gelatin from Jell-O. Okay, so that's what they're named after, presumably. Kind of a fun name for an art project, you know, something jiggly that you can eat, can be formed into any shape. Makes a lot of sense for an art troupe or art collective. And you can see they're involving food in their art right here. They're doing like a human pizza and whatever the hell this is here. The book they made covering this project, The Bee Thing, was published in 2001 and had even by that time taken an era of urban legend, with new copies selling for $5,000 on Amazon.com as of 2016. So if we look at these pictures here, we see these boxes in the background. They say BB18. And in their book that they published, according to the film, there's a full page version of this. And if you can see the other side of this photo, there's boxes stacked on the other side. So what is all this stuff, BB18? If you type BB18 into Google, you get a movie called Big Brother 18, which I've never heard of, but Big Brother kind of makes you think of like the bigger powers in the world, doesn't it? And here you see an eye, a clock, kind of get weird like Illuminati vibes a little bit. Anyway, it's just a TV show, right? But you keep going. What is this? BB18 is a three-phase bus bar terminal power feed lug, which is intended for use with LPSM, LPSC series fuse holders. BB18 is actually the name of a fuse holder with voltage ratings, 600 and up. A lot of voltage. So these guys are doing an art installation, and they're surrounded by these boxes and boxes of fuse holders that are intended to conduct very high voltages. And I just think it's interesting that you type something like this into Google, and before you get the actual definition of BB18, you get this TV show. I've found this phenomenon in other contexts. When you look up the word conspiracy theory, the first thing that came up for me when I looked it up years ago was the film Conspiracy Theory. It's almost like Google is trying to take you into a different direction, so you don't look at the actual meaning of the word. They want you to look at something fictional that's related to the phrase you're looking for. It's just kind of an interesting thing to note. Same thing with none. I looked up none and a while back, and the first 5 results were Evil Nun the movie. Like, okay, I wasn't looking for some fictional blasphemic version of a nun. I was looking for the definition of a nun. Now, according to Codex 911, the art troupe's webpage, gelatin.net, used to have a series of sketches connected to this event freely available. I presume screenshots from their book. But now you must manually type out www.gelatin.net/WTC into the address bar in order to see the following images, which may very well already have been removed by the time you read this. So this is kind of small, but if you blow this up, this is an index of pictures. Link 1, link 2, link 3, link 4, and so on. So let's look at these images. The first one shows someone jumping off a balcony. What are they building? They're building a balcony. And this guy's kind of looking in surprise, and this whatever this thing is, dressed however it's dressed. And then there's an arrow pointing down saying 300 meters of pure pleasure. Well, that's kind of weird if we view this in context of what happened a year and a half later, because people were seen jumping off the balcony after it was the tower was hit just 2 floors up from where this depiction is supposed to be. It's kind of creepy. Did they know the future, or is this a coincidence? What is this art project all about anyway? Just, it gets very weird very quick here. And here's supposedly a picture of whatever they built, which I don't recall ever seeing pictures of anywhere at any point in time. The only picture we really get is this really far away one that supposedly shows like a giant stick of gum here hanging from the 91st floor. So I don't know. None of this makes very much sense on the surface, that is. A sticky memento. As a unique marker of their presence, gelatin left behind an old piece of chewing gum adhered to the exterior of the World Trade Center at a dizzying height. This small but powerful symbol serves as lasting proof of their bold intervention. This article addresses the weirdness of this whole thing, but it completely avoids the absolutely sinister connotations of it all. So it's a piece of disinformation, I would say, or some type of attempt to redirect your attention away from something while purporting to address the incident fairly and thoroughly. All right, so here's a picture of World Trade Center 1. Very depressing building inside. New York, very amazing building outside. We want to feel the crossed out, break through, amazement to the amazing building, amazing from... You get the feeling that they're speaking in code here. This is kind of a blueprint, and they're speaking in code. And we're supposed to, I guess, think it's all artistic and interesting. I don't know. Maybe there's some references here I'm not getting, but it sounds like they're speaking in code. And look how the building, there's 2 depictions of it, and this one looks like it's kind of imploding, right? Depressing inside, amazement outside. Architectural analysis sketch. Amaze, to surprise or astonish greatly, fill with wonder, astound. Fill with wonder. What's going on here? What are these cryptic references talking about? To break through to the black belt into the amazing zone. Fill the inside with the amazing sight. So it sounds like something is being put inside the building in order to create the amazing outside. I don't know, to blow the building up. It's kind of what it sounds like. So we've got a satellite up here, phone talk with mama, funnies on satellite TV. Then we got happiness in this zone here. We have God crossed out, and then we have a plane. Look, that's a plane. Crudely drawn below the word God, which is crossed out, and then God is placed under the plane. Boring airplane food. Last chance to parachute is marked here. Why would you parachute right here? Is the plane going somewhere where passengers might not survive? Is it crashing? Gelatin's 20-minute balcony. 20 minutes. Gum machine. Most popular suicide height. I mean, what's that saying? That's where most people are going to be jumping to their death in a year and a half? I mean, or does it just mean nothing? Is it just artists being kooky and being artsy? This is very damning. It's like they knew what was going to happen. The operation room is hidden, and the balcony is part of the plan. What plan are they talking about? What does the B in B thing stand for? And we've got what looks like I said, really primitive blueprints. Like, what are these, I-beams or something? 50 kilograms, kind of pointing at the ends of these, or I don't know. I don't know what this is, but they look like structural pieces, crudely drawn, with ficken drawn all over it. There's just this kind of dark humor surrounding this whole thing, and that looks like a fish. I just noticed that now. And remember the fuse box we talked about earlier? The BB-18, remember that? Well, let's close up right here. Let's look at this. Is this a fuse box holder? And then it says B out 6:05 a.m. in, I can't read that, Trojan box with B inside. Slides open 11:45 p.m., shuts down 6:59 a.m. Now in the film, Codex 9/11, the guy says he interprets this as they're working at 11:45 p.m. and leaving at 6:59 a.m. Now, if that's true, that would mean they had after-hours access to this building. In other words, the security for the building was allowing this, was letting them work after hours. Trojan box. So, you know what a Trojan horse is, right? In Greek mythology, the Trojan horse was a wooden horse said to have been used by the Greeks during the Trojan War to enter the city of Troy and win the war. The Greeks constructed a huge wooden horse at the behest of Odysseus and hid a select force of men inside, including Odysseus himself. The Greeks pretended to sail away, and the Trojans pulled the horse into their city as a victory trophy. That night, the Greek force crept out of the horse and opened the gates for the rest of the Greek army, which had sailed back under the cover of darkness. The Greeks entered and destroyed the city, ending the war. So when they say Trojan box, they're saying something is hidden inside there. What's hidden inside there? With B inside. What does B mean? Bomb? There's another type of gelatin that we haven't talked about called explosive gelatin, also known as gelignite or blasting gelatin. It's an explosive material made from a mixture of nitrocellulose and nitroglycerin. Gelatin. Is this why they changed their name in 2005? Were they dealing with blasting gelatin? And over the years it became too obvious, so they had to change the spelling of their name? Are they referring to a bomb? Are they planting some kind of bomb? Well, maybe they're referring to gelatin. They're applying gelatin to these fuse boxes, and the thing is, explosive gelatin requires a detonator. You need to add something to it, I guess. I don't know, light a match to it or something. So I'm guessing that applying this explosive gelatin to all these fuse boxes all around the 91st floor, or I don't know, all around the building. You flip some switch somewhere and it turns electric current to flow through those fuse boxes, and boom, anywhere this fuse box is located is an explosion. Strategically placed gelatin in fuse boxes that can accommodate 500, 600, 1,000 volts, well, that can do some real damage, especially if it's strategically placed, at the ends of where I-beams are connected and such. So it's starting to sound like these guys were planting a bunch of explosives on the 91st floor, just a couple levels below where the first plane hit. Now, this is significant because the film, and a lot of people commented on this before the film even was made, the first plane hit and these explosions sort of like shot out of the windows. And that doesn't actually make sense because an airplane hitting a steel frame structure isn't necessarily going to go all the way through. This is a very strong building. It's not going to simply travel through the other side and cause explosions. And some witnesses heard explosions. Many witnesses actually heard explosions. When this plane hit, before it hit, and after. And it's all in the film if you watch it. So it seems to me that they were installing explosives that were timed to go off when that first plane hit in order to create more damage than actually would have been caused, because an airplane probably would have hit this and crushed against it like a tin can. Again, this is explained in more detail in the movie, in the documentary. There was a New York Times article covering this, which is referenced in the film. I haven't looked it up, but there are images of the article referenced. You can look that up if you like. In that article, it states that it speaks of the secretive nature of all this and how certain files and film covering it was disposed of. Now, if this is just an innocent art piece, why do they need to expose of all this stuff? And what is the point of this art? Whatever images, sketches, art pieces, balcony, whatever they made from all this, was presented at a gallery called Leo Koenig Inc. And it was presented on September 11th, 2001, all the way until October 31st, which is Halloween 2001. Thousands of lives were lost in that building, and it kind of feels like these people are laughing in our faces before it happened, and they're laughing in our faces after it happened. Now, there's a lot of other details in this documentary you can look into. This is just one. We've got to pay attention to the fact that we've got some real evil in the world. Real evil. We've got to acknowledge it, and we've got to talk about what we're going to do about it.